Welcome to Iceman Movie Reviews, The Shallows. I'm sure many of you coming from my main channel would be a little bit shocked to find out that I am doing a review on the movie The Shallows, being as how I mentioned I am terrified of sharks. But what is odd about that is I will watch pretty much any movie on sharks. It's an interesting topic to me. First things first is that I watched the movie. Like I said, I've watched multiple shark kind of movies from the best to the worst, and I had to watch this one as well because it looked fairly decent. I went online and I read the movie reviews, and for the most part it was mediocre. You know, everyone said it was okay, but nothing really to write home about. So I decided to watch it, and here's my review of it. To begin with, there will be spoilers in this to a degree, and I wanted to get that out of the way. As far as the plot, the main character, Blake Lively, she goes to an island that was not really an island, but she goes to a beach of where her mother used to go and surf and everything. You gather this all by the pictures she has, and at one point you find out that she had died of cancer. And she goes out surfing, comes back in, has a little bit of dialogue with her sister and her father, where we find out that she was training to be a doctor, and it sounds like she's giving up on that dream. Why? She briefly says because her mother couldn't fight anymore, and so she can't deal with trying to help people that are gonna die anyway. But why she decided to go to this island after that, I have no idea. Well, she goes back out and to surf again, even though people warn her that she needs to come back in, and she says she wants to catch one more wave. Well, while she's out there, she's not catching any waves, and as she's looking out to the sea further, she sees some kind of mass floating out there, and she goes out to it, which was one of the stupidest things she could have done, and it turns out to be a whale carcass, which, as many of us know, is a breeding ground for all kinds of predators. Well, once getting to the whale carcass, there also is the main creature in the movie, the shark, the great white shark that's there, and due to the fact that she's around his area, now he's interested in her, or the shark could be a she, I don't know. And from that moment on, she gets bitten by the shark and gets to a rock outcropping that's there in the middle of the water that's exposed during low tide, and once high tide comes in, it's no longer exposed, and she'll be in the water with the shark. So it's a battle of her keeping safe and keeping away from the shark, of which she'll have many battles with in the movie, and to the end point where she finally battles the shark and defeats it. That's pretty much the story. So, one of the things I want to mention is the fact that before this movie came out, I read a review of it online, or a story. I frequently will go on, and if I think I'm not going to watch a movie anytime soon, I'll go to web pages and try to find out what actually happened and everything. Well, a couple of the places I went told absolutely different stories than what had happened. And a lot of the things that they gave it bad reviews about was things that didn't even happen in the movie. The one thing that I remember them mentioning was at one point near the end of the movie, she makes it to a buoy out in the ocean. And in the review, they said that the shark attacks the buoy and somehow the buoy sinks. And they even mentioned in the review saying that I don't know how buoys can sink, but this one did, so we'll give it a pass, being it's just, as a lot of people are claiming, it's a B movie. That actually didn't happen in the movie whatsoever. What did happen was there was 3 or 4 chains holding on to the buoy onto the seafloor, and when the chains broke, being that the platform above it was so high, it actually just rolled into the ocean. The buoy didn't sink, but as physics dictates, it couldn't hold up the weight of the top, so it just rolled down. So that didn't happen whatsoever. So with that out of the way, I wanted to discuss what I liked about the movie. The first thing that I liked that I don't think they even showed in the previews was there's a seagull that gets injured as well, and it stays on the rock with her. And as much as I was concerned about it, the seagull actually lives. And, normally I've been to the beach before. Normally I don't look fondly on seagulls because they're kind of a pain. But after watching this movie, I kind of liked the one that was there. Another thing I liked was that it was extremely intense. I mean, it didn't help that I have the phobia of sharks to begin with, but it was really intense. It kept me conscious of what was going on around me. It basically is the Jaws remake that we'll never get. There's scenes in the movie that a couple of surfers that get eaten have a GoPro camera on their helmet, and they replay this scene about 3 different times where they're watching the GoPro camera, or she's watching the GoPro camera, and the video's first person, and you see the guy's last moments to where it seems like you're in the water and the shark all of a sudden comes out of nowhere and bites the guy. Another thing that I really liked, and most movies anymore don't seem to do, is that most of the stuff you see in the trailer was in the movie. It's not like Paranormal Activity where nothing you see in the trailer is in the movie. There's a couple things that weren't, but I'm going to get to those later on. I liked that we were given a reasonable answer as to why she was being attacked and stalked. Mainly it was her fault for going out to the dead whale, but it wasn't just like Jaws where it just randomly starts attacking people. It actually had a purpose. Now, why it continued to do so, that's another question. But the reason as to why it started, that is given. One other thing that I really liked was the fact that they actually brought dolphins into it. As we know, is about our only friend in the sea. And at one point they do like a jump scare where she's sitting on a surfboard looking at this whale carcass from afar, and all of a sudden these dolphins jump out of the water at her. And I kind of like that they brought that in to say that, normally, as a lot of survivors of these attacks have said, that whenever the dolphins come around, it means that there's danger in the water. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, on to what I didn't like. It was somewhat unrealistic with her. Not so much the shark. The shark was pretty good. There was only a few moments where you could tell it was CG. The rest looked legitimate, like it was an actual great white shark in there. One of the main points that I had a problem with, and these are all nitpicking because I really didn't have that many issues, but one of my main issues was, even after I said I didn't have issues, one of my main problems was the fact, and I think you could even see this in the trailer, was that this shark looked to be pretty big. It had to have been at least 20 feet long, so it was one of the biggest sharks you've seen. And the shark had bitten her leg to start off the movie, and the bite mark was from her middle of her thigh, and I never see this in there, but she mentions that it's just below her knee. So we're talking about, what, 1.5 foot bite? And once they actually show the shark compared to her, that shark bite should have been from her ankle to her hip at the very least. Another thing, and I'm going to go back to this, was that she mentions after doing stuff with her leg that gangrene is setting in. And they even show the foot and it's swollen. But for some reason, other than once or twice showing that she kind of limps a little bit, she's walking around on it, she's swimming on it, she's standing on the buoy with it, and even leaning out, as you've probably seen in a couple of the images that they have, leaning on that leg strapped to the buoy, and that leg's fine. So it doesn't seem to be giving her too much problem. The other part with that is at the end of the movie, yes, she lives. At the end of the movie, you see her on a beach in Texas, and her leg's fine. And just doing a little bit of research on gangrene, as I was fairly certain was true anyway, it takes a lot to get you back to where you're going to be able to use that leg. And even as such, there's so much damage with gangrene, because it's rotting tissue inside your leg, that it's almost impossible to get it back to where you're not even harmed by it. The other thing with her was that she, like I said, was mentioned that she was a doctor, but she took her earrings out and decided to kind of make a clamp to holding her skin together where it was bit on her leg, and she's actually piercing inside the skin and everything, and outside of a painful grunt, she makes it seem like it's nothing big, where I know for a fact, and I'm sure just hearing that, anybody else would have passed out from it or went into shock, and that never happens in this movie. So that was a little bit unrealistic. Story-wise, there was two things that didn't make sense. Was that as soon as she showed up, she was riding in her truck with that guide, and all of a sudden she mentions that her friend just text messaged her and said that she's still hungover, so she's not going to come with her. And she goes on this big long tirade about that her friend always does this, and that she's always punctual. And even the guide says in Spanish, what she doesn't understand is that he says that she's bossy when she says, "Oh, I'm punctual," and he said, "Well, it sounds like you're bossy." That whole thing about having a +1, as she puts it, for a friend, it didn't even have a bearing. It didn't have a place. I don't know why they even felt to mention it. You never see this girl other than a picture on the cell phone, and it doesn't make sense as to why they even included it. I mean, even with her going on the beach, no one seemed to think it was odd that, she was there by herself. The other issue is the fact that they make this big mystery of what this beach is called. In the beginning of the movie, she asks her guide, "What's the name of this island or this beach?" And he totally ignores what she asked. Well, then, not long after that, she tries to sneak it in there saying, "Oh, you never did tell me what this was," or "I forgot what you said it was." And again, he didn't tell her. And at one point, she's out on the rocks making her final goodbye video, and she even makes a statement saying, "Oh, I never knew what this place was called." Well, that's one of the places in the trailer that they kind of lied to you, because in the trailer, if you remember, the guy says, when she says, "What's this place called?" he says it's called Paradise.
What did you say the name of this place was?
This is Paradise.
He never says that in the movie. And, I think back that her mother went to this place. It was her special place to go, I guess, to think. And she never mentioned the name of the place to anybody. I mean, even they were pointing out landmarks of this one rock formation that looked like a pregnant woman out there in the sea, and that was never mentioned, So it kind of was unnecessary, and they let it up to be something big, like, after the shark attacks her and everything's fine. You would think that it's going to be leading up to, oh, this is Shark Island or Shark Beach. You know, that's why we didn't want to tell you, to scare you off. But they never do. It's just no one seems to want to tell her what the island's name is, and for some reason they try to dwell on it, and I don't know why. So, as far as should you watch it, buy it, or don't even consider it, without a shadow of a doubt, don't listen to online reviews. I'm excluding mine. Don't listen to the online reviews. This movie's good. Like I said, I've watched a ton of crappy shark movies, and I love Jaws, and I love Deep Blue Sea, and this one blows them all out of the water. This shark movie is awesome. I love it. At one point, I will actually own it. I just rented it, and I think you should too. I think you'll greatly enjoy it, especially if you're into these kind of movies. It isn't for the faint of heart, because there are some scenes that freak you out, but one of the neatest scenes at the end was when the shark dies, and I won't give that away, but how the shark dies is incredible. I mean, it leads to a little nitpick of her getting away from the shark while they're swimming, but how it looks when it actually gets killed is incredible. It's something that you have to see. So with that, I give it a 2 thumbs up. I say you definitely should watch it, and don't listen to these people that say it's a B movie. It's worth every penny of what it made, you know, even more, and it's definitely worth your time. So with that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.